Why you can blame slavery for tipping in the U.S. This is The Unspoken Why. Welcome back to The Unspoken Why, an audio-only podcast where we talk race, culture, the future, and politics. If you're new here, thanks for clicking on my video. And if you're into these conversations, like the video, comment below, and subscribe so you never miss another one. So if you're a return subscriber, then you know that I told you before I'm blessed to have a job where I speak with people from all around the world almost every single day. And one thing that they always tell me is that they cannot stand, and they meaning foreigners, people from Asia, people from Europe, people from Africa, people from Latin America, they tell me, hey, I cannot stand the tipping culture in America, having to tip 20%, sometimes 25%. And nobody can stand it, right? Even Americans can't stand it. But one thing that nobody really knows, and which I always end up telling them, is like, hey, did you know tipping is rooted in slavery? Right? It's the side effects of slavery. It's racism, which is why we have tipping and this disgusting tipping culture that we do have in America. You can blame slavery and racism for that, and they're always shocked. And then I come to find a lot of Americans, a lot of us don't know this. We don't know this history. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today because, you know, during COVID, things really ballooned and people were really going crazy with the tipping. A lot of companies, were going crazy with the tipping, asking for tips at Starbucks and just different self-serve places, and it was out of control. And there is an ugly history behind tipping, and you guessed it, it involves them wanting to, of course, hold back Black people, hold back our wealth, hold back us being able to save, and hold back us being able to balloon economically and grow in this country. So we're going to get into it today. This is from the Shriver Center on Poverty Law, and it's kind of an old article, but it's very relevant because this just is history. It's forever relevant. The racist history behind America's tipping culture. So tipping proliferated in the United States after the Civil War when the restaurant and hospitality industries hired newly emancipated Black women and men but offered them no wage, leaving them to rely on patrons' gratuities for their pay instead. So basically, for the women, shake that booty a little bit, talk to me nice, mwah, 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 and maybe I'll give you a tip, sweetheart, right? More than 1 in 4 Black restaurant workers live in poverty. This is the side effects of slavery. And now, because how you do one thing is how you do all things, even the white waiters and waitresses are feeling the side effects of this as well. So it says you're likely familiar with minimum wages, where workers are paid hourly anywhere from $7.25 in Georgia, which uses the federal minimum wage, to $15 in New York City by employers for their labor. Millions of people working across the U.S. earn a minimum wage, sometimes making as little as $15,000 annually, and still struggle to meet their basic needs. Now, you may not be familiar with the fact that federal and state laws allow employers to pay some workers, generally those who receive tips, less than minimum wage. So the federal tipped sub minimum wage has remained at $2. Let me zoom in on this real quick. At $2.13 per hour since 1991. And guys, I looked this up, and this is still this is still the wage today. So if you are a waiter in any state, well, except for like California and some other states where they've raised the tipping minimum wage has to be the same as the state minimum wage. Some states do that, like California does that. But a lot of states, they can literally pay waiters and waitresses as little as $2.13 per hour legally. Okay. The Illinois tipped wage is currently $4.95 per hour. So again, each state is different. So Illinois, theirs is $4.95 per hour. That's what the state has decided. But federally, they can pay you as little as $2.13 unless the state decides otherwise. Okay. This long-standing policy restricts the income of service industry employees like restaurant workers, hairstylists, drivers, and even massage therapists, and makes their labor incredibly cheap for employers. It's also the legacy of slavery. Okay. Tipping proliferated in the U.S., like I said in the beginning, after the Civil War. when the restaurant and hospitality businesses were hiring black women and men and offered them no wage, leaving them to rely on patrons for gratuities. It was a way to exploit the labor of former slaves. Okay, so quote, it's the legacy of slavery that turned the tip in the United States from a bonus, okay, like it is in Europe, it's a bonus, or an extra on top of a wage to an actual wage itself. Yes, okay. Tipped workers of color continue to suffer the consequences of this legacy. In the restaurant industry alone, over 27% of black workers live in poverty. About 37% of tipped workers are mothers, and nearly half of these women are single moms. For a single mother, earning the tipped minimum wage often means going without breaks at work, going without insurance because her employer is not obligated to provide it, going without enough nutritious food to keep her and her family fed and healthy. So while the minimum wage in Chicago here is $13, the city's sub minimum wage is less than half. It's $6.40. So again, Chicago is another city that has designated their own tipped wage. It's $6.40, but it's still not the minimum wage. Okay, I think in California they made the tip wage the minimum wage, which was really good. So some of the cities raise it, but it's still not the highest of the minimum wages. You see, they've like lowered it like they did in Chicago. Here, tipped workers of color are offered living wage opportunities only 53% as often as tipped workers who are white. So, hello, Chicago. Okay, segregation, Chicago. So I'm going to leave it here and I want to go back to this. Okay. So I want to ask you guys, why do you think that after slavery, they decided, hey, we're not going to give you blacks a wage? We're not going to, we know you're free, but we're not going to give you a wage. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Once black people became emancipated, okay, it was just a piece of paper that Abraham Lincoln signed. In a lot of white people's minds, especially in the South, you were still a slave and you were working for free for a long time, for 250 plus years. And now, because Abraham Lincoln signed some paper, we're going to pay you and treat you like a citizen and like a real human being. Like, nah, we're not going to do that. We also don't want you to save any money and be able to open your own business, right? And flourish and grow, right? And build an economic legacy for yourself and your family. No, we don't want that. We want to keep slavery going in another form via tipping. Okay, this is the legacy of slavery in America. This is why having enslaved people working a land for free for 250 plus years destroys a country. It destroys the morality of a country. It destroys the economics of a country, because in the minds of a lot of these corporations, a lot of these restaurants, companies, etc., all of them, they feel like, hey, we had free labor before, we can have it again. We don't ever have to pay a real wage to these people, to anybody in this country, really, because we have free labor, right? Versus in Europe, they didn't have 250 plus years of land on their slavery. Most of them didn't have slaves on their land. So therefore, they have to pay a full wage to all their waiters. Their waiters are making like sometimes 17 euro an hour, maybe even sometimes less as 12, but still they're not making $6. They're not making $2. That's egregious numbers, right? And so fast forward to 2026, we've got all people working in service. Again, after the Civil War, we were the majority pretty much in the South. The black race was the majority people in the South. So we were doing all these jobs that we were doing before, but now we were quote unquote freed, because of the Emancipation Proclamation was signed and, Abraham Lincoln did his thing, but that didn't mean anything. That didn't mean anything. That's why they said, hey, you know what? We know you're freed, but we don't have to pay you. But we're gonna let you work for tips. How's that sound? And when you're desperate and you need money to survive, because now you're not being taken care of by the master anymore, right? You're not being taken care of by the plantation anymore. You have to do what you have to do. So a lot of these people had to work for tips, unfortunately. But it has come back to bite America in the ass, because now everybody's working for tips. Everybody in America is working for tips. Your white waitress, your Asian waitress, your black waitress, your Indian waitress, man or woman. Everybody's working for tips now. So this is the legacy of slavery. So if anybody ever asks you about tipping in America, just send them this video. You ain't got to say nothing. Just send them the video. Let the video do what it does, because this is the truth. This is what it is. And there's no way out of this. Like, because now they got the AI, they got the robots. So, they're not going to, you're never going to have to tip anymore, because they're just going to buy these robots, and the robots don't get sick. They don't get tired. They could work 24 hours. They could just charge them up, put another one out there while one's charging, and they're good to go. So now they don't need humans anymore. So it's just going to get worse. But just understand, because they had the free labor for 250 plus years, that got really sweet to them. That got really good to them. And they were never going to pay a real wage to anybody after that. It ruined America, right? And it ruined it for white people. And I think they're starting to understand and see the side effects of slavery more and more nowadays. And it's going to continue. It's going to continue. So let me know what you guys think about this video. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Comment below, guys. And always, always remember to ask why.